markets. And being that we're a free society that are driven by markets, we have to understand about animal spirits. And then we also have to understand about the impact of governments. And it seems that for every event that occurs throughout the ages, governments will respond so that this may never happen again. And what they don't realize is that sometimes they sow the seeds for the next great disaster. When you look at this picture, it really is a powerful thing, and it should tell you about human nature and complacency. You know, from 1960 to 1980, when that mess, as evidenced by the movement sideways on the left-hand part of the chart, markets did everything and nothing. The Dow traded between 500 and 1,000. And when it would make these great leaps, like in 1968, the Gulf of Tonkin Resolution that began our episode in Vietnam, and what you all forgot about, and we all do this because it's human nature, is that the Vietnam expense was 12% of GDP in 1968 to 1972, to say nothing of the fact about the casualties and everything else. At the same time, LBJ ended up with guns and butter. Great idea. Until the French said, "Excusez, we would like the gold behind the dollar. We don't want the dollar anymore." And LBJ said, nah, and diluted the dollar by 50%. You can see by the little mark what happened to markets when people started pulling out of US dollar-denominated securities. And then it was like, okay, we'll try something else. 1973, because we had misbehaved in other areas, the Arabians that had all of the oil decided that the United States gets nothing. Now understand the impact of that. That came out of nowhere, just like that. And at that time, we imported, I think, 35% of our energy needs. And at that point, I think we were still at 60% of GDP was from manufacturing. So all of a sudden, I was skinnier and younger, my Chevy Impala became worth nothing overnight. And it was a proud thing I owned, you know, 2,800 American dollars. And overnight, it was worthless. And then the choice became, in my mindset, that was fill the tank, movie, date, girlfriend. No longer work for $12. So the car was eating $22. So of course the car had to go, and all of a sudden, remember, Chrysler almost failed, and Ford almost failed, and GM almost failed, and and we blamed the unions, we did all this stupid stuff. And then we woke up one day and there were Beetles everywhere. And I bought one. It was the most non-manly thing I ever did in my life. But they got 45 miles to the gallon. And America rose, and we figured out we're going to do something right. And what do we do in the energy policy? Let me see. Now we're at 70% of our need imported daily. Oh, okay. The circuitous route to nowhere. But then we did do some right things, and we made peace in the Gulf, and we lowered our taxes, and Ronald Reagan came in and started a great bull market that unleashed complacency like we've never seen in the history of man. The prime went from 20 and a half, what is it now, Patrick? 3?
3, yeah.
Long-term debt, do you want to talk? I remember buying munis when I was skinny and younger. They were at 16%. And people would say, no, we're not going to buy that. We're going to be like Latin America. No, I don't want to buy anything. So they kept it short, and they rolled the rates from 20 to 0.
That was when inflation was 16%, though, right?
Right. So the Dow went from 500 to 14,000, and it created a new breed of buy and hold, be patient. Don't worry about it. Just buy and hold and wait and wait. And your 4-cylinder engine worked great. Stocks, bonds, cash, and real estate. Bravo. But I think now the paradigm is changing again. And you go back and say, what might the future hold? What's the next thingy? What the future might hold lies buried in the past. And if we go to the next little sniglet and focus on 1965 to 1982, where we had similar pressures, energy complex through the roof, interest rates through the roof, tax revenues, the governments responded as best they could to all these rising commodity costs, rising labor costs. And we woke up one day in 1979, I believe, and the top tax bracket in America was 79.8% federal. And at that time, we had the Strategic Air Command, B-52 heavy, loaded with nukes, flying 24/7, aimed at a country that took 100%. Well done. where are we going? Who knows? Nostradamus is dead. I wish he were still alive. But if we look at some of the threats and pressures we face today, we may end up in an environment where we face reflation, and trust me, reflation is going to be the new word of the day going forward. Somewhere in the next 3 years, people will say, how did this happen? How did this happen? You don't take $8–9 trillion and flush it in the system with a large plunger without thinking somewhere down the line there is going to be a consequence. There will be. You have 1973 is a study point for the dollar and GDP. A 1973 dollar has 1.5 cents left in purchase power. And now it's not backed by anything. So we have to be mindful of that in the wealth creation process. And if we are going to reflate and there's going to be issues, you have to manage thy debt. If you ever dreamed of borrowing money, 'tis the season to lock and load at good rates. I would not be long on the investment side because the rates of return. A 10-year treasury at 2.8% does not amuse me. The next chart shows the long-term history in America. Markets are markets are markets, nothing changes. The only thing that changes in over the long history are the names of the victims. We're driven by animal spirits, greed and fear. When everybody is greedy and happy and everything's working wonderful is when you should be most afraid. And you know what? I guess it was back in 06 and 07, and I had friends that were running to the Jersey Shore, not buying one, but 3 properties at a time. And I had friends in Florida that were saying, we're going to buy this apartment complex and we're going to turn it and empty these people out and flip it to condos and sell them all over and make a fortune. And the stupid bankers are right there saying, here, have some more. You know, and that is never going to change. You know, you forget. After that last malaise in the 68 to 73 time period, the bankers got smart and said the American consumer is not worthy of investment because we have stagflation, we have inflation and wages, and this. We're going to take our money, all of our capital, we're going to put it in Latin America. And Citibank and all the mega banks, the top 10 largest banks in America, had most of their capital in Mexico, Nicaragua, and one morning we woke up because they used to think, well, countries don't go bankrupt, countries don't go bankrupt. Really? And if we had had then legislation that we have now, and someday history will show the great panic of 2008 should have stamped on its derriere, made in Washington. They deserve all the credit for this. As a result of Enron, remember that, the fraud and this and that, when you have market downturns, the bankers get scared, they stop the money, and then the criminals end up, as the tide goes out, being viewed in their underwear, and they get lassoed up and taken away to jail. It's part of the game. So everybody becomes fearful. Enron, they did some bad things. They had these off-balance sheet units, 10 billion, 15 billion, boom, boom, boom. And they're worth a lot less, pennies on the dollar. So mark-to-market accounting is the absolute solution to prevent that. Mark-to-market solution, written in 2006, implemented in November 2007. Who needs a safe to fall on their head? Did it ever dawn on you how come all of Wall Street basically is gone just like that, whereas the entire period of our history that's never happened before, except during the Great Depression. In that period after the Civil War from 1880 to 1928, they decided that we're going to have something called fair market accounting. And it's going to be an openness and a truthfulness and a la 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 la. And what it is marks to market. And it works just fine until you have a contraction and things start that nasty spiral down, and it will go straight to zero if you allow it. And in 1929, the market crashed. Most people don't realize by April 1930, it recouped 50%. Then the Congress made a mistake. We're going to raise taxes and balance the budget. And they did, and it was a doozy. And then on top of that, they passed some hellaciously protectionist legislation called the Smoot-Hawley Act, which brought global commerce almost to a screeching halt, down 90%. They finally shot that in 1937. And then the other big mistake was the Federal Reserve, which was created in 1913 to even out the bumps and